I think we'll, there we go. So good morning. Following the release of the ministerial order number M192, whereas a provincial state of emergency due to COVID-19 has been declared, municipal councils may hold their meetings via electronic means. Please be aware if you're attending this meeting, our meetings are recorded for future viewing. We are privileged to gather on the traditional territory of the Clikwala speaking peoples. So I will call the meeting to order. And are there any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
So moved.
All right.
Oh, seconded.
All in favor? Passed. So petitions and delegations, we have Island Health here to speak to us about the boil water advisory. So Dr. Enns and Charlene McKinnon, I will turn it over to you, except I'm not really turning it over. So if your mics don't work, ask Pete, please.
There, I'm good. How would you like us to start? Do you have questions? Is there something in particular you want me to speak to?
Mayor Wickstrom, you were
for the
jumping there.
most part that Mayor, Council, the people of Port McNeill would like sort of a background explanation as to why, with just total coliforms, we're not able to lift the boil water notice. Some of the steps that Island Health is requiring before we can get the boil water notice lifted, and if we can't seem to track down what the source of the contamination is, what does the future of our water system look like for Port McNeill?
Okay,
And
yeah,
one
that
other,
helps. That helps me a lot. Sorry, go ahead.
and one other question that came forward is this flush that they're doing of the system with a bit of, is it chlorine, Pete? Is
Yes,
this
that's a disinfection.
Yeah, and so is that is why is that being done? Is that being done with the intent that it might relieve the problem, or that was the question that I had.
Okay, I'll start off with that. And Charmaine, if I miss something, just pop in and let me know or redirect me. But essentially what has happened is there's a low level of bacteria that somehow has gotten into the system. And it's not just totals, there has been E. coli hits as well. And they are low, which is a good thing. But this system has such a good history of water quality. We're not sure what has happened exactly. Eric knows much more about it than I do, but he has identified a number of things in talking to the water system operator that may have gone on. I'm just going to grab my sheet so I don't miss it. And some of it has to do with routine maintenance of the system. There hasn't really been a flushing program over the years, which is something that has typically happened. At least that's my understanding. And then the other thing that happened was back in June, there was an issue with, I guess, a lightning strike. Well, number 2 was hit with lightning, and there was a communications error that happened. And when the system came back on, there wasn't a flush there. So there could have been a pressure drop of somehow. It could have sucked something into that well. We don't know. And then the other thing that happened too was apparently there was a water leak, and in the process of investigating it, one of the valves hadn't been completely turned off, is the way I understand it. And that too could create a little bit of a negative pressure situation and suck some contamination or dirty water back into the system. And then part of what happens too is as water travels through a distribution system, you normally get a biofilm. So because no water is pure, no water is 100% clean, you get this buildup. And sometimes even that can slough off and create these little low total hits. And then one of the other things that Eric had identified is in the process of doing some of the sampling, the water operators had changed the disinfection of how they disinfect the tap. So normally, you kind of swab it with a little bit of chlorine. And I guess they were using so much chlorine, it was starting to affect the actual fixtures and rust them out a little bit. So they switched into a different disinfection, which I'm not sure if it was a hydrogen peroxide or some other disinfectant. And it wasn't super effective. Like, they weren't doing it properly, I think. So all of those things, any one of them could have contributed to these low hits. And it's not uncommon to have this happen. It's actually probably more uncommon that you guys have had such good water over the years, to be honest. You typically get these little hits. So we never expected it to kind of keep coming up with these little hits. So what ends up happening is, anytime we get one E. coli hit in the system, if it's more than less than one, we automatically err on the side of caution, and we put that boil water notice into place. And that's what happened here. And then since that time, what happens is we need to have 2 consecutive samples that are completely clear, no totals, no E. coli. We can't get that. So we've had E. coli come up since, in just a couple of little samples. And I believe there was one even last week that came up at the ferry terminal, because the water operators now done their routine sampling, but they're adding on a bunch of new places too. They're trying to work through where this is happening and what's happening. So then part of that is they'll flush out the system. They'll run the water. They'll try to flush out any contamination that they have. If that doesn't work, then what they do is they try to chlorinate it. So they throw some chlorine into the reservoir, into the distribution system. In a city like the town of Port McNeill, they put in a concentration that they can disinfect it over a period of time, that you can still use the water as you move on. And hopefully that boost of chlorine just kills off whatever's gotten into that system, and there's not a continuous little something going on that's causing these low total coliforms. So we're hoping this disinfection or superchlorination will zap that out. And if it doesn't, then we really have to look at what those next steps are. We need to make sure it's been done right. It's done with the right concentration. If there seems to be that isn't the case, maybe we try it again or one more time. And then worst case scenario, you look at some sort of secondary disinfection down the road, and that would be chlorine. And that would be a low level in the system in order just to keep the water clean, if there was something identified that they just couldn't fix. Does that help?
Are we going to be able to drink the water when the chlorine is in the system, or is a boil water advisory going to stay until further testing?
Will stay until further testing for sure.
Have you any
Yeah.
time frame at all?
I don't, because it depends on when they do that. And then that would be something like, I honestly don't know the ins and outs of the level of chlorine and the time. We have a public health engineer that I would consult for that.
Got ya.
And I sit behind a desk for the last 15 years. I'm not out in the field, so I can't answer the concentration levels and time. But usually it's over a 24-hour period as such, and we go from there. So I don't know. It depends if it works.
Yep. Okay.
But we would consult and make sure that we can help the water operator. The other thing you guys have going for you is that Alert Bay has done this a number of times. So they're there and they could probably consult with them. And you have a level 4 operator up the road in Port Hardy, and Joe Jewell knows what he's doing there. So there is people to tap into locally. And I believe you've also been working with an engineer yourself, and that engineer or water operator, whoever, we would have them loop in with our own public health engineer.
And can I ask one more question? And that
Yeah.
is, you say low level. So does that mean low risk?
What it means is, I wouldn't say it's low risk, because anytime you have E. coli in the water and you're picking up these flags, because you're not testing every hour of every day, it's a snapshot in time. So what this snapshot in time is telling us is that you're getting 1 E. coli here, 1 E. coli there, 1 or 2 totals here, 3 or 4. Those are really low levels. If that was like, you know, hundreds or thousands of E. coli, we have like some sewage contamination going on. So we just don't know. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's better than if it was, you know, hundreds, but it's still a risk. We still, especially with the E. coli in there, we just don't know. Like shallow wells, you will get E. coli and totals pop up from time to time, anytime it rains, because whatever's on that surface just gets washed into the well. With a deep well though, we need to find out what's going on. And that's where if there was a leak in the water system or some negative pressure that's just sucked a little bit of bacteria in the system, we need to figure out why this is still going on. And that's where we need to take those proper steps to make sure it's done. And chlorine and shock chlorination is definitely routine.
So it just becomes a matter of, it's not that it's taking a long time because it's not something that you would cure overnight. It is a matter of sussing it out and going through a very, 'cause I know that's been kind of the comment. People are Facebook kings around here, and the comment is, well, why haven't we done this before? Why are they just flushing the water now? But what you're saying is that it's just the next step in the process.
Absolutely. It does take some time sometimes to figure out what that cause is, especially when you've got a number of things here that have happened kind of in that period of time, you know, in regards to that communication error with the well and the lightning strike, a water leak, a valve that wasn't completely turned off, and some changes in the way that sampling has been done with disinfection methods. So it is unfortunately trial and error, you know, just working through the problems.
Okay.
Charmaine?
Dr. Enns?
Thanks. I really appreciate the conversation. And I also appreciate, you know, sitting where you sit and having, you know, you have the responsibility for the system and also to give answers to your constituents, to your community. So I really appreciate that. You know, this is really about, as a water operator, going through the due diligence to protect the public's health. And sometimes that's uncomfortable when we just want everything fixed, because we like everything fixed and working. But the reason why we have a system like we do that is, I think, really works is that part of the requirement is routine testing. And like Charlene said, those indicator organisms, which we expect zero of in a system that has the integrity it's supposed to. This indicates that there is something happening somewhere and it needs the attention to be addressed. And so when it continues, it even is a little bit more of a concern, is that we have to go a little bit deeper in the sleuthing to figure it out, because the issue needs to be resolved. And so the other thing is that when at least with the boil water on, you have also met your due diligence as a water operator to inform the public of a risk. Then if they choose not to do a boil water, that's their choice. But that you have let them know that the system hasn't met the minimum standards for potable water in British Columbia, and the drinking water advisory is in place to help them make informed decisions about the water they're consuming, because they have a right to be informed that this system is not meeting the minimal standard. So that actually frees you up to be able to do your job with an informed population. So just wanted to help put that maybe in a little bit of perspective for people, that actually this is to their advantage in terms of information and informed consumption.
Rickstrom?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank you very much. As you said, our staff and ourselves, we're fielding a lot of questions. I myself have been very reluctant to share information because I don't want to give out misinformation. So I think that this is fantastic. We can share this recording and people will get accurate information, and hopefully it will alleviate some of the questions that they have. What I did hear you say is that we have a good history. What I also heard you say is that this is not unusual. And so I think we're coming out of COVID and a bunch of other stresses. And now this is just one more thing that is amplifying the stress for our residents. So I'm happy to hear all the steps that are being taken. Another thing on social media I've seen is that, you know, questioning our staff. And I know that Julian and the other staff are working really hard, and they're working with you. So it was important for us to have you be here. And I thank you for that. I know that they're leaning towards other communities and other areas, people who have expertise. So I think it's really important for our residents to know that they're doing everything possible and are in constant communication with yourselves at Island Health, and we're doing the best for our community. So thank you so much for coming today and explaining all of that.
Is there anything that either of you would like to kind of leave our community? We actually have a few people, a few residents online for this meeting. Is there anything any message that either of you would like to kind of give us as a summary?
I think just that we have a really good working relationship, you know, with the town, with the operators, and the environmental health officer that's up there is a very good communicator and advocate, and we will work through this.
Great. Very positive. Thank you. I don't know. I grew up in a logging camp. It rained. You had brown water. It's just the way it went. But thank you very much, both of you, for coming to our meeting here this morning. And I hope that gives everybody a little bit more information on what's happening.
Thanks very much. Are you releasing us?
I am releasing you.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day, everyone. Thanks for the
Bye.
opportunity. Bye.
Thank you. And then our next petitions and delegations would be official community plan survey and forum update with Kevin Brooks and Kelty Chamberlain from McElhaney. I saw Kelty on there. Can we get her?
Promoted her. It's taking a couple of seconds for people to move over, so she should be over hopefully in a couple of seconds.
If I can just say one thing, Madam Chairman, I'm going to leave this meeting now because I felt that the health thing was really important and I didn't want to interfere with that. But there are serious issues with the notification for this meeting. I found out by accident that this meeting had moved from 7 o'clock tonight to 9 o'clock this morning. And I suspect the same thing has happened with Councillor Cole. So I'm going to leave and make it so there's no quorum, and this meeting will have to reconvene at a time when all the participants get proper notice. Thank you very much.
Councillor Cole is here.
Yeah, sorry, I feel the same way. I'm totally unprepared for this meeting. So I'm going to leave the meeting as well.
We did get an invitation that there was I know the agenda was incorrect, but we did get an invitation that's in our calendar.
Well, on that note, I suppose we have no quorum, and I'm not sure what the Roberts rules are on that one.
Well, we will cease having the meeting. However, I don't want to waste Kelty's time, so perhaps we can just have an impromptu meeting and discuss next steps so that at least you two and myself are aware.
Do we need to end this meeting and go into a different agenda or a different invite kind of thing?
No, we can just end the meeting and yeah, if Kelty could give us an update. It won't be official, but at least it'll be information. No different than if we were having coffee.
Okay, so we have a resident and
You have a
Sue
question?
Eiderman
Sorry,
on there. Or
can I have a question?
Sure.
So I don't know, Pete, if you can reach out to the other two councillors, but our in-camera agenda did have the correct time on it. And so, you know, can you find out if they're choosing not to participate in this meeting because it said 7 o'clock, because the in-camera agenda said 9:30. And so Therefore, they should have been adequately notified about the in-camera portion of our meeting.
I can reach out. Kelty, would this be better if we just reconvened another time?
Yeah, I'm happy to join another meeting if you need to get reorganized. That's fine.
Okay, thank you, and sorry about this.
Okay.
It's not a
Oh, there
problem.
you
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, just let me know.
I guess we can't move to adjourn the meeting. So how do you close a meeting if you can't have a motion?
I'll just note it in the minutes that that the two councillors left without quorum.
Okay.
And will this be available to be uploaded for our residents so that they'll be able to hear about the boil water advisory?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll do that immediately as soon as our in-camera's done, if we do have that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.